what you asked for. Heavy is the crowd, fire in the sunrise, ashes raining down. Heavy is the crowd.
It's going to be the Grubs and the Herald going over the Gen G, but the second dragon of the game.
Oh, okay. He just wanders on in there. Take the Baron, and Kiin gets back into position. And now Canyon is just crashing into them. The two-man impale as well. And Gen G will destroy the Baron. The killer instinct is named well as Zeus is his second one. The Lazarus fight going to keep them alive for now, but who's it healing? It's only healing Gen G as they move to 1-1 in this series.
Gen G saying, you thought this was Worlds? No, this is the LCK and will bring you back down to earth by beating you the most exceptional way we know how, by macroing you until you fall asleep.
Hey, I loved that game. I'm also 10 of the most boring people I know. No, but this was
10?
All 10. This was classic Gen G, right? Like they set up exactly what they wanted to do in draft and they executed it really, really well. They knew exactly where they wanted to be on the map. They got a little bit of help from that nice like drive-through smite steal. But yeah, like this is the Gen G that we saw in LCK. This is the Gen G that we expected.
Just so people don't get angry, I also love seeing great macro play.
It's a
I was
joke,
just leading
guys.
us in, okay?
It's a joke.
Yeah.
But on the opposite side of the draft, I felt like T1 weren't playing to what was their strengths, right? Like when I looked at Red side coming in, I thought they were going to set up really nicely for like a Keria counter pick. On my bingo card was not Keria blind picking Braum at any point in time in this tournament, and I felt like it was a lot of missed opportunities because as they came into it, you can see it in the bottom of your screen, they could have just gone for the Sylas in the position that they picked the Braum. You already know you're up against the Ahri and this is something you want to go for. Then you're still able to go for the Maokai counter pick into the Jax on that last, or on that or 5, and you keep that counter pick for Keria where he's been so potent, and you can bring out something funky like a Nico or like the Pyke that we saw the other day. But that's not what we got. Instead, Keria just felt invisible, was getting caught out in multiple positions, and did not look comfortable on this Braum pick whatsoever.
I completely agree. You know, Keria's been so good on things with lots of mobility. You know, Rakan and Bard and roaming around and making a lot of plays that are quick for them, but then sticking them on Braum. And then you also look at the other players. Zeus, to me, is the most dangerous player on T1, and you're putting him on the tank, and you're putting a Kindred early pick in the hands of Oner, when Oner has been so good as you're engaged. It feels like a lot of things are just kind of swapped around for the actual players that you would feel like. That being said, the early lane swap, Gen G got such a big advantage. Lane swap wards were great. They saw T1 trying to go for match. T1 were so dizzy, and Gen G got a massive, massive lead out of the early game.
Yeah, I mean, it was glorious. They did send 4 people also to kill Zeus this time instead of 3.
Yeah, but, well, yes. The big point for me on this one was the befuddlement that T1 had in the early stages meant that Keria didn't hit level 2. Because they didn't know if they're supposed to go top or they're supposed to go bottom, he didn't get onto mid wave. He gets caught on the level 1. Then they get the dive here onto Zeus, who did play really, really well to manage to almost turn this around, but he still falls. But it was a lot of that indecisiveness that came back to bite T1 in this play, and I think it was a great from Gen G to try and set up that confusion in the early stages.
Yeah, I thought this was in particular really good for Gen G. They've classically been really, really good in these lane swap situations. We were talking about them as the best lane swap team in the world, which is why it was really interesting to see them so dizzy on the map at times in game 1. This is a very restabilization for them.
It's true, and it's like you got everything you wanted. All you had to do was play it out, and you are the most adept team in the world to do that. It does make me think, and we had this conversation backstage also, Rob, you're like, oh, I think all of us were a little like Keria on the Braum, a bit disappointed, but I feel like this is one of those things that T1 would do in a draft too, after winning the game 1, right? Because if this series gets played out, there's 4 or 5 games and Keria hasn't pulled out that trump card, that tells me a lot about the general ability of T1, because that has been their strat, is one of the reasons why they won Worlds 2023.
Yeah, I think this to me was T1 trying to test the waters and say, hey, look, if we just say we are going to absorb the dive and try and play within that space, maybe we can find something different. And as Kobe was already alluding to, like a carry pick for Oner was not what I expected when he's been incredible on picks like the Vi thus far at the tournament. So it definitely felt like teasing the waters in the same way that we saw Gen G do so game 1 with the Yone. But now coming back into it, I think I'd want to see T1 go back to early game control, having Keria open up on the map, because it was actually Lehends who dictated a lot of that support matchup for me in this early stage of the game. He looked significantly better, and it was catching Keria out or catching Faker out at 7 minutes in top lane that really broke this game open for Gen G.
You had called it out before. Lehends listened to you.
Yeah.
I had to just disappoint him,
Lehends
you know?
heard you directly. I also think it'll be interesting now as we saw T1 going back to the blue side. I don't expect to see Genji leaving the Yone up again going into game 3. So I'm curious to see if a changed ban strategy affects what T1 want to get on that blue side of the map.
Yeah.
And if they're going to continue to put a lot of effort into these level 1s and these lane swaps, because again, I really feel like the information gathering at the beginning and getting the wards down, you know, allow for this kind of domino effect that we see in the game here for game number 2. If Gen G are able to come out with a really good level 1 here, this is where you could kind of like take control of the series, because, you know, 1-1, blue sides, but now we get into the real meat of a best of 5.
Yeah, first it's like the entrée, the course, right? And we're going to get to the main dish indeed. I just think the demarcation lines that have been drawn, if you look across games 1 and 2, because we can't forget, after that kind of Zeus repel, Gen G was also firmly in control before T1 brought it back. They were completely in control. So for me, the momentum feels a little bit shifted towards a T1 that has to make something happen.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is going to be trying to get access to the map early and trying to play for some of the early Void Grubs and getting in your control that way, because it was a big risk in this game as well, where they gave across all 6 of those Void Grubs, trying to cross map to a Jax that's going to be able to match up to the Maokai. Like, there was a lot of risk taken by T1, and if you actually think back to the start of game 1, it was T1 off to an early lead. I think it was mistakes at those Void Grubs that came back to bite them. So there is definitely ways T1 can control this game coming into number 3.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Things are heating up here. I wonder if Atlas has taken off his jacket yet, or if he's still in his full 3-piece suit, even though it's boiling in here.
Too committed to the 3-piece. I love this suit so much. I've worn it on 2 other occasions. One of them was a world final. The other one was my wedding. This is how you know that I guarantee this is going to be an incredible series. Those were the other 2 best days of my life.
We thank you for your work, Atlas. It's greatly appreciated. As going into this game number 3 draft, no surprises, although that Yone ban coming out on the side of T1 here. Aurora still going to get taken out. The Ashe still up, Skarner still up as well, Jax available. Skarner, Jax would be the kind of no-brainer 1-2 here for Gen G.
The BLG approach, as we like to call it. Certainly a favorite for them in their semi-final that went pretty well, you could say, for BLG. We'll see whether that is exactly where Gen G are going to go. Not deciding to switch up the picks here, as it will be the Jax to be locked in first. And I think that, you know, you don't talk about hovers is something that we sometimes talk about. This is a hover that you can probably talk about.
Yeah, I think you can be pretty confident with that one, Atlas.
Especially
Especially with Kiin. Now, the question is, will it be a 3rd game? Skarner. I'm going to hazard a guess and say yes. Canyon, of course, has showcased a wealth of different champions. His Maokai win rate this year is almost as good as his Nidalee win rate. I mean, the man is very versatile in terms of the jungle role, and they're actually, based on the hovers, holding off on that lock-in. Chovy's win rate with Ahri so far in the best of 5s hasn't been the strongest, but last game, he had the Veda over Faker. He was able to have a lot of mid control thanks to the Ahri pick and what was happening around the map. And we'll see what the response is here from T1.
Also ties into Chovy's approach. Often as a player, if he thinks the champion is the best, we'll just keep picking that until the antithesis is proven. Renata coming through. Again, Keria having an incredible game, and we were calling for this, and I love it here as well. Always going to feel strong. The only thing for Gen G, you do have the opportunity to pick up like Ezreal here. Doesn't mean your jungle pool is going to get pinched, but getting a non-stationary AD carry, I think, is going to be a really big deal, because otherwise the team fights are going to be really hard to play out.
Depends what he has planned. Could be something else here as well, as that Ahri Nocturne combo that they swept through Swiss with is going to be locked away. Canyon, he is sick of playing this Skarner, and I could understand, no shade cap, but I don't know. It just doesn't do very much damage. You only build health. It's just less fun than Nocturne, who does slashy.
You are setting up very clearly for a Kai'Sa pick here for Gen.G. You imagine that's going to be banned away by T1. The backline threat onto the Ashe is very lethal. The Kindred, I think, is it's a really good matchup into the Nocturne.
Yeah.
You just went out on the skirmishes, so they're going to remove that. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Vi removed, to be honest, with the amount of mobility on the side of Gen.G. Just take that away from Oner, one of his best champions.
Yeah, protecting a lot of bans as well, because T1 basically have to ban Kai'Sa Ezreal. And so it's going to be
Pretty
relatively
much.
telegraphed what they're going to be taking into this game. Of course, T1 not too worried about it because Ashe, Renata is just
They might ban
universally
Ziggs.
strong.
Yeah, I was about to say, Ezreal's another, but I think the Ziggs makes a ton of sense given what we've seen so far. And
then you get Ezreal. So I guess that's the 3 picks that they were happy to grab. And if you've got 3, then you're not too worried.
noteworthy as well that the Silas did still get banned, even though Chovy did a really good job in that matchup, still going to deny it. And I think it's
ulti.
because of the Nocturne,
Yeah.
right? So much of the value is because you're the one is the Twitch Nocturne actually going to be denied here. And I think it makes sense given how insanely annoying that looked to play against.
They thought that Lehends was going to go back to his Shen. That's what was going to happen.
But it's
As there's the
Peyz
Ezreal.
Ezreal.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, he could still theoretically play Shen, but it's not going to be a
I like this Gen.G draft, I really do. I think it's very solid. It makes a lot of sense in the context of how Gen.G like to play. These 2 last picks are going to be crucial. The mid jungle from T1. Faker has had a phenomenal world so far. Pairing up alongside Oner, they've been doing a good job together. The question is, what plan have they got for Canyon Chovy?
Let's just see. Wanting probably a little bit of physical damage from that mid lane. We'll see where T1 are going to go. Never mind. Okay, Yasuo could be an option. The Akali really hard, and he's going to lock it in. I think if you were watching Worlds last year, you understand this is one of the ones that Faker's pretty good at. Hasn't been playing it very much this year, however. Still, this guy has played competitively like
be Vi,
80
right?
different champions,
It's gotta
so
be.
he's fine, and that's going to be the Vi locked away for Oner. Although they do have a bit of time to think about it, I still think that they don't need to worry. And so it's relying on Vi and Ashe as far as that physical damage is concerned, but I think that the damage profile kind of okay. It's just range that might catch them out, but the way to start fights is what we were looking for after game 2.
It's such a peak T1 comp as well. So much upfront burst, allowing you to play towards that bailout, which is something they love to do. Oner on a champion with a lot of engage and playmaking potential. And what is Lehends going to pick here? This time the Blitzcrank is open. But it looks like instead they're going to go for something a lot more well-rounded, and they did have a really good game on it in game number 2.
Yep, the pretty standard option in the Rell. But like you say, I actually think playing for Lehends' comfort is a really good idea after what we saw in game 1 and the rest of this tournament, because Lehends has kind of been the weak link here for Gen.G. Not in game 2, though. Trying to carry that one forward does make a lot of sense.
Now, when we think of Faker, there are a slew of champions that you can attribute to his name, right? Of course, Akali is definitely up there in terms of a champion that he's had a lot of presence on, but Knight yesterday beautifully demonstrated what this champion can do to an Ezreal. And that is what T1 is envisioning in this game. The level of execution damage is incredibly high. And when you've got a Vi there to dive alongside you with the potential of the Ashe Arrow pick, no cleanse is going to save you from a Vi and an Akali duo, but it's about being in a position to really execute on that, because Gen.G have a lot of skirmishing threats themselves. The Jax was a huge problem in the previous game, and I can tell you right now, Ashe isn't going to have an easier time in this game compared to the Caitlyn on the last one. Renata's going to be crucial in the usage of the ultimate, and I think that, again, Gen.G have a pretty straightforward and easy comp to execute.
I would agree. I think that there is a lot of pressure on T1, but I want to go back to what you were saying, Chronicler. This is a T1 draft. We were watching the World Final last year. The only difference about this one in comparison to that is that was a mental snowball that they were rolling on, right? This was a T1 that was sweeping a series. This time, they have to utilize it to come back from a deficit here after losing game number 2. But here we are onto the Rift. See whether they can make it work.
Gonna be looking at the lane assignments. Also do know Chovy going for a grasp again. Would expect him to try and keep Faker down, particularly those first 6 levels is where the Akali can really struggle.
Certainly is. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, you need to log into your Riot account on LAAAAsports.com and earn Worlds watch Worlds Live to earn exclusive emotes, icons, capsules, all that cool stuff. We've got a little bit of time here. You're not going to miss too much. So you can hop on over and you can get that one done just to get some free stuff. It's really cool. Okay, Zeus is standing on a ward, and there are a lot of bad guys in the brush.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no, there's the charm that crashed down as well. It's a dead Gragas. It's going to take a little bit of time because he's relatively tanky, but still, that's first blood going over to Peyz, and maybe that makes Faker's job a little bit harder.
That ward so crucial. Spotting Zeus out. I don't think Chovy's flash was necessary, but he committed it anyway to guarantee that pick. And Gen G start off game 3 with first blood.
And Chovy's flash doesn't even matter all that much because it's Akali that he's laning against.
That
Not a
is
lot
true.
of kill threat in the first 5 levels. So he should be absolutely fine navigating this one. He's also, Chovy does kind of like the laning phase in general, as we're going to see standard lanes here for likely the first time.
Do have Peyz now walking up. Tear from the start.
Oh, God.
Something you're going to be very happy about just in what it means for your spikes, because obviously it doesn't really give you any combat stats early. And in this lane, Lehends and Peyz are just playing to clear the waves, don't be diveable, and get to your items. 2 items for Ezreal is always the main breakpoint. From that point on, he only gets stronger. And we do see both junglers starting on opposite sets of the map, although Canyon, I think, started his Raptors, then path down. Whereas Oner just doing a full topside clear and maybe looking to impact this bot side. And these trades are actually really valuable because it could set up for a possible dive towards the bot side of the map.
I will say, it's nice to see move away from the lane swap, only because while T1, I think, in the Swiss stage really had phenomenal execution on the lane swap, this, to me, is the bread and butter of Gumayusi and Keria. Their 2v2 laning prowess has been so incredible. And while I think there's Summer, of course, question marks always when it comes to T1 and Summer, at this World Championship, watching this bot lane 2 versus 2 has been a joy to watch. And you're seeing it right now. They know the strength and the advantage they have. They don't care about the tier. They know that with this Ashe Renata, they can bully this duo as much as they like.
Yeah, and I think that this is the biggest benefit of not having a lane swap this time around, and it's curious that Gen G didn't decide to opt into it themselves. Maybe just saying that now that we've got a kill on our Ezreal, we're going to be okay, but a tier doesn't really give you a whole lot of stats. Still, the fact that the wave is going to be pushing out and Peyz can pick up a bunch of farm underneath the turret, that's going to be okay, as Faker only hit by the non-true damage part of the Orb of Deception after a couple of abilities go his way. Not going to be feeling too bad here as he's playing with his health bar into Chovy in this lane.
Now, the Ahri Akali matchup is pretty interesting because once you get to level 5, you can actually start winning out very easily on a lot of trades for the Akali, just because the bonus movement speed from the W makes it very easy to sidestep the E from coming out from the Ahri. The problem is, when you go for the electrocute over the fleet footwork, it's very easy for Chovy to kind of chip away at your HP bar when you're trying to farm, and it means the Faker's in this awkward spot where he now needs the wave to bounce back into him, which is happening, fortunately, but it's this weird, awkward middle ground where he's now relying on his Doran shield to kind of mitigate and heal back up in this midterm level laning.
It's also, again, the grasp, and I do think that we have seen in the past players really get caught off guard by just the extra amount of health that can give you. Akali in particular plays around kill windows so well, but if your first couple of plays don't end up working out and you fall behind the curve, it can be really hard to play out. As obviously Canyon just wants to do exactly this, which is just farm, and even though they don't spot him directly, if they see his top side is down, we'll know that he's on the bot side of the map. But it's an early game Nocturne, not really expecting a lot, but that does mean that Kiin is actually in a really awkward spot. His wave state not looking good, already chunked to half, and Oner is on the top side of the map.
And full information over to T1 as well as Canyon walks over that ward. They knew exactly, they had an idea of where he was, but then they get full confirmation. Now Canyon going to try and clear that one out, does get information of the ward he just walked over.
Yeah, read the movement.
Yeah, as a result, Kiin actually just going to go for a recall right here, not wanting to risk too much. And despite the fact that Faker is sat on below half health for the majority of this lane, he has kept these minions really pushed towards Chovy. So it does give a lot of control over to T1.
Yeah, it's very awkward for him because Chovy's holding onto a monstrous freeze. The idea is Faker, you try and get those early pushes in, then you get the bounce back. But Chovy's like, no, I'm good. Now the wave will finally bounce back, but he ticks over to level 6. Ideally, Faker wants to back now so that the wave will freeze here. And now Chovy's back is a little bit awkward. He's going to try and interrupt Faker. It will be crucial if he does. Massive,
oh, wow.
massive,
He was
massive.
on that ward, as we could see. I thought he was actually just a prophet, but no.
Oh, they've actually brought the bot lane over towards mid to catch this wave. Faker can now actually TP box and go lane against Peyz, who can still...
Oh, body slam going to miss. That could be a big deal here. They're evening out the health trades that have been going pretty consistently in Zeus' favor.
Chovy looking to TP back towards his lane. Will be able to do so. And the first objectives spawning now. We have the Grubs online. Drake's there as well. You can argue either team is very happy to just wait till level 6. You have a Vicon position on one end, a Nocturne on the other. It's just going to be a trade here. Does mean that this time Gen.G not going to have the Jax with an unreasonable amount of Grubs. Even early trades here.
Certainly feels good for T1. This time it's going to be a trade, so it's not going to be the, the Grubs team picking up all of the dragons as well. Feeling a lot more even.
Grub secured. And I think both teams are quite happy with the current game state. Obviously, T1 are setting their sights on a top lane play right now. Kiin level 6. As those resistances, no Ashe arrow available yet.
Yeah, Lehends looking to get himself into position. I think they had an idea that something was going down. Notably, Canyon not quite level 6 just yet. Doesn't have that paranoia up and available as T1 don't opt in for any sort of dive attempt. But Kiin still wanting to get aggressive on the Gumayusi, who does have to cleanse. And pushes him away. So just going to be able to settle for the summoner spell and just move off.
Nicely as well. Gen.G have moved Peyz out of the bot lane matchup in towards mid, where he's much safer. That means that they can keep Chovy into the Faker matchup, where the Ahri can continue to bully out on the Akali. With level 6 coming through and level 7 being a crucial breakpoint for Akali, just because she's going to get her Q at level 4, which I think it's either about 80 energy or about 70, but it makes the Q rotations much more comfortable when it comes to trading in the laning phase.
Vision control here for T1. Do have Canyon, but he's backing, wanting to spend his earned gold from
Ashe
those
arrow.
full players.
Oh god, okay, the arrow is going to connect. The counter-strike wears off, but there's the cease and desist! And he can't flash leap strike out of that one, and even though he had the Grandmaster's might, he's still going down. That is going to be a kill going over, equaling things out for T1.
A classic T1 trap springs on Kiin. Get a kill onto Vi, and also get the flash out of Kiin.
I love that you called it a classic, because it truly is that idea that T1 makes it look like they've gone back to base, but they stay on the map a little bit longer to catch you pushing that wave out, and it works to perfection. They're able to equalize the kills, and T1 find their first of the game.
And I love this. I feel like it harkens back to something that Chovy was talking about in the tease earlier on. The fact that, Faker was known so much for these mind games that he plays. I think it's all of T1 that does those mind games now. It used to be maybe a little bit too much with excessive Barons being started every single game. Becomes less of a mind game and more of a you do this every game.
A bad habit, perhaps.
Yeah, kind of. But they are always just trying to push these advantages, trying to find opportunities where their opponents don't have enough information to be able to do what they want. So really nicely done here from T1 to try and claw back a bit of control of this game. But right now, plate should be going over to Chovy here, as Guma not going to be too worried. Canyon, level 7.
Again, it's a relatively slow early game. Kind of what we've come to expect from these two teams as they prioritize farm, but also it just goes to show how difficult it is to kill these players. Like, there's a reason why Gumayusi went deathless for so long, and he still only got a single death to his name, even though Gen.G absolutely stomped.
KDA.
Yes, it is.
Oh, you love that.
And it's a situation where both teams just play the map very well. They're constantly fishing for opportunities. They're playing for these early plates. But it's the Grubs now become the next big point of contention. A minute away. Both junglers already setting up some vision around the top side of the map. Kiin, I imagine he wants to get a quick base in before the objective spawns, but that could be a window for Guma to already then push out mid and then set up on the top side river.
As we get into these fights, on one hand, how is Gen.G going to be able to absorb the amount of backline threat that's there? Because T1 can split up a fight very easily with the Gragas ult, and obviously he has Oner to start him out.
Going to come on through here as Zeus is looking to take the fight to Kiin. Does find some nice body slams. There's the slowdown as well. Leap strike just to try and escape, and you can see Canyon. Oh, he was looking for a potential angle as Kiin able to sidestep, but that does buy some space. Still, Oner not going to be committing because they didn't know exactly where Canyon was. That could have been a follow-up.
I'm actually very surprised. Kiin had no flash, and Oner with ulti was in range. I think he could have committed, but I guess because Kiin hadn't used his E yet, they were hesitant to really fully commit to the play. Regardless, the damage was done. Zeus has already gone back to base. He's now back out onto the map before Kiin has had an opportunity to, but Kiin's TP is available. Are they going to contest this?
Just have to say, I think 6 Grubs is going to be pretty valuable
for
that's T1. Yeah, the teleport flank angle is coming in here. Kiin, good position to start this one off. He's just beelining right in there. Paranoia comes down. They do throw out the ulti. Keria trying to keep them at bay, and oh no! There goes Lehends, and now Faker is caught onto Kiin, lands the shuriken, and he's going to wait for the leap strike. There's the max range Q, and that's Faker's Akali at Worlds, ladies and gentlemen.
And that is Faker coming in huge, but it's the team response from T1 that's the biggest thing here. Chovy couldn't join that fight. I think Gen G was expecting them to back off when the Nocturne ult came through, but T1 said no, we can take it, and they take a big lead here in game number 3.
We talked about how this composition is very much true to the style of T1, and their ability to take these early skirmishes wasn't there in game 2, but you can see how prepared they were. Oner and Keria were the focus at the start of the fight. Keria, though, has the passive to be able to reborn, and then, of course, also has the ultimate available too. So even though they're getting collapsed on by every single side, the TP comes in, a nice flash comes out. Keria doesn't care that he's getting focused on. The Gragas then arrives, and crucially, as you said, Chovy can't join the fight.
Yeah, and Kiin and Lehends spent most of that fight fighting each other because of that hostile takeover that came in. Faker gorgeous on the 5-point strike there. You see T1 with Reckless in the back. Feeling pretty happy about this one. And Helper and Mata getting more and more stressed as this game goes on. Still, a lot of game left to play here. We are tied up in this series. We'll see whether Gen G can claw their way back to an even game state after that big lead has been acquired. About 2.5k. Now the lead for T1.
Peyz has got to have to do a lot of heavy lifting. A lot of the gold for Gen G is on him, but into a Mid Akali and Oner also getting bigger and bigger. They're looking to punish Kiin. Again, this Jax not having a great time. 4 men at the ready.
All right, Canyon does have that paranoia up and available. They know exactly where he is. This is a big gamble if Gen G do decide to go for it once again. Chovy is very far away, but this time has the teleport up and available. Nice little stun to come through there as Kiin now with the Counter-Strike on cooldown. They're trying to deal with these waves, but another one conga lining in. This War of Attrition looks to just be going in T1's favor, especially with all those grubs, the Void Mites and everything like that. Gen G just going to back away.
Gen G seeding more, and T1 no, like we don't have to dive this, we can just poke them down. The only way with the range that Gen G have that they can never really push back is if they actually hard commit. But because of the vision, T1 knows everyone is in the area. Chovy was showing on top wave, and they weren't worried about a possible collapse.
The timing was fantastic as well. T1 had gotten a deep push into top side, which meant that Chovy went to go and answer. Bear in mind that he's a large part of Gen G's wave clear, so while he's present top, it gives T1 the ability to force stack bot. They then keep Zeus in mid, he catches the wave there, and they don't really lose anything. Sure, Zeus lost like half a wave in the top side of the map, and crucially, Chovy does have an experience advantage over Faker, but he should be able to claw that back as long as he starts matching in the side lane. He's got his fully completed rocket belt, which means that he's now going to be a much more of a threat in the 1v1s.
It's telling that the Ahri, Nocturne, Jax composition doesn't want to fight for Herald. And when you look at these two compositions, it does really feel extremely volatile. Because they are both so short range, you really, once you find yourself in a deficit, have to be extremely clean with your fight selection. As this bot lane turret will go, but the Herald might be dropped in mid. There it is.
Yep, that's going to be even more money going over to T1. They're happy to trade these turrets because this is so much more map control as Canyon's doing his very best to try and clear things out. Dustbringer should be able to help as there's the charge, and this turret's not going to be long for the world. Oh my god, the damage! The arrow's going to connect, and Lehends trying to crash his way out. But Gumayusi says no! He has his bow primed, and it's another... Oh, never mind, not another charge. That's a smite coming through.
Oh.
Maybe it was a bait piece, and it's a double kill! Peyz able to get the arcane ship, but just barely clipped by the hostile takeover. And Gen G cannot do anything this game.
I mean, it's just a beatdown from T1. If game 2 is 16...
Oh god, okay, there's going to be 5 people towards this top side of the map as Peyz looking to try and get on in there. Another cast. Kiin is just being thrown around by it like a ragdoll. And it's another kill for Gumayusi as a result. Gen G not able to do anything. Faker just utilizing the second portion of his ultimate because he can. And it's all of a sudden a 6,000 gold lead.
It's just a relentless barrage of punch after punch, and T1 are not letting up. They use the Herald mid. Lehends with a slight overstep gets collapsed on. The burst damage from Oner and Guma mean that he drops first. And then look at this play. Canyon thinks that he can punish Keria, but the way in which Oner turns this around, connects the Q, the ulti to follow, the Ashe passive is stacked. and they're able to get a double for Guma. And what's crazy is they didn't even slow down there because Faker was pushing out the top wave. They turn to top, they get that objective as well. They get another kill.
It's gone from bad to worse for Gen G in this one, but T1 really showing that this bounce back was real. And coming into this series, they'd only played on blue side one time. This is the third time they've been on blue side this whole Worlds, which is kind of crazy to me because they do love this side of the map. And they are demonstrating to us that in this series, it is not going to be any different. And hope, like what I'm trying to get to here is that we might have 5 games, and that'd be super cool.
T1, when they are playing a comp that feels like it fits them versus the T1 that is on something like we saw last game, is night and day.
I mean, there is like a perfect example for this. We have the stats for Kiin on Jax in the last game. If you compare that to what he's doing now in this game, it is absolutely night and day. And Zeus on this Gragas in comparison to the Maokai is incredible. Speaking of which, he's going to get tagged by that arrow. Still, there was no one there to follow up, so he's just going to be denied a turret take. That's going to be down very, very low, but still not going to be the money going over to Gen G.
Look how scared they have to play as well, and the only saving grace for Gen G, which by itself is not enough, is that they do have 2 dragons. The problem is you're playing into T1, and we all know that as soon as the Baron is online, they're going to just start pulling it consistently. This Drake, obviously Gen G, never going to contest, but I don't think Gen G is ever going to give, or T1 rather, is ever going to give Gen G the opportunity to get to the point where these gold leads matters less, right? When you have the 2 items on Peyz, when Chovy can get to a next item, as oh boy.
Dear. Yep, it's going to continue not being very possible to be able to make those advantages happen, and if Faker gets into the Shroud, Zay's going to follow up the kill, and now Faker is looking to try and get in there for more. Dashing after Canyon and Kiin here. It is just Faker at the moment, but now you can see they make their way in. The paranoia comes down. Decent little utilization of the counter-strike, but Faker's going to get another kill. Hostile takeover means Kiin is dead at the same time, and Peyz almost hit by that handshake. It could have been worse, and it's still a disaster.
No mercy will be shown to their domestic rivals as T1 just run through Gen G once more. There is no Baron for them to get. 18 minutes in, and they are slaughtering Gen G.
And Gen G, the only reason why Baron isn't taken is because we're 18 minutes in.
Yeah.
It's 9-1, 6.5K gold lead here, and Gen G, they can't even get there to waves.
Game 2 was systematic dissection from Gen G. They controlled the map, they were patient, and T1 were suffocated. But in this game, T1 are just brawling.
It's a sledgehammer.
It is a beatdown. And sure, a bit of anti-synergy there as Zeus knocks Lehends out of the way of Faker's E. He flashes to try and cancel the back, doesn't quite get it in time, but he says, guys, I'm not letting my ulti be wasted. You better collapse here. Here comes Oner, and then the follow-up comes through.
T1 from these winning positions are always going to be looking for more and more aggressive sideline punishes. And Gen G, not respecting Peyz, just has to watch his teammates die. Nothing that he can do there.
And the travel on the shuriken backflip there as well from Faker. This guy, when he plays Akali at Worlds, it's just a beauty to watch as we're straight into it once again. Magnustorm going to come down. This could be a pick as Keria. Actually more tanky than we might have expected. He gets bailed out as well as Faker gets another one. Make it 2 as Oner is in on the action still. He's going to go down. The cast just to remove Peyz, and Gumayusi is on a rampage. Kiin is on the floor, and T1 are looking to shut out this game.
Keria doesn't even die, gets the full value from the bailout. The TP comes in, and they're not going to relent. Chovy and Peyz just, again, have to watch their teammates fall one after another, after another.
T1 is just crushing Gen G with their wallets right now. Gen G admirably tried to find a pick, but you said it yourself, Atlas, Keria way tankier than they were expecting.
Yeah.
And while they expected to one-shot Keria, he bought enough time to allow T1 to collapse and turn it around. Now, the Baron is on the Rift. Another bad fight for Gen G will result in that objective falling. And you can see the vision coming through from Lehends. He chopped 3 wards in a nice little triangle, I guess, to just try and make sure that they have some semblance of information.
Yeah, maybe something won't get swept.
With how deep in they are, like even a good fight might mean Baron is gone, but maybe you get like a bounty or 2. things are looking dire, and unlike some of the previous games, the ranged wave clear is really lackluster when it comes to these Baron minions.
Oh, handshake going to connect there. Not a lot of follow-up onto Lehends as they didn't have a lot of information. Red buff is the prize that they're looking for, but it's going to get reset, and it looks like Oner should be able to take control of it. Into the Shroud goes Faker, now Paranoia. They think they might have them where they want them. As over the wall goes Chovy. He's got the flank angle, and they take down Guma to start off the fight, but it has to be paid for by Kiin. Now a 4 versus 4 as T1 look to rally back into position. Can they win the fight without Guma is the question. He's so much of their consistent damage. Is now Chovy dancing around, not able to find too much more, and T1 back away.
You're completely right, Atlas. Losing Guma is a lot of the damage gone, so T1 have to be a lot more careful. Faker had his ultimate available, but they chose not to take the fight any longer. A crucial flank from Chovy. He's been largely invisible in this game, quietly farming on the side, but you look at his itemization, he is on I mean, he's ahead of Faker in terms of itemization. So there are still avenues for Gen G to turn this around, but they need to find more picks like this.
A very deep TP starts this off, and it's hard to respond for T1 because they don't have the vision. The Nocturne denies them so much, but this is where the wallets come through. Even with the carry being taken out immediately, Gen G don't really have an opportunity to chase further, because if they get another kill there onto maybe Faker, you turn it into a Baron, the game might be playable. Instead, it's a moment of respite, but T1 still have a very tight clutch on this game.
Yeah, Faker actually looking for Chovy here as he gets into the Shroud. The rest of T1 now moving up. The arrow not going to connect. As Gen G are now looking to back away. Now it's Zeus' turn to start a bit of an engage with the body slam. And this push and pull, Gen G putting that phalanx back together. All about this Baron right now. No one really being able to get too much ground.
Crucially, the Dragon is completely exposed. The bot wave has been pushed in by T1. Faker commits his ultimate to try and force something out from Chovy, but he holds his nerve, doesn't get dissuaded, still has his ulti available, but the problem is all of Gen G was shepherded to the top side of the map, leaving the mid lane exposed. T1 get the objective, and now they can turn to the Dragon.
True Shot Barrage is going to spot that that's exactly what T1 are intending. Only going to start that one up, but you can see Kiin so far away from this on that bottom side of the map, and it's because the map is so incredibly wide and dark that it's very difficult for Gen G to get down there, as Lehends trying to set a trap here for anyone who unwittingly moves towards his top side. The Drake will just be taken here, evening out that count 2 for 2, but next one going to be very, very scary because a 4 Drake Hextech Soul sounds unbeatable. Shattering Strike going to get a fair bit of value here, but Lehends still in a whole lot of trouble as Faker looking for them. Still dashing forward as the Paranoia does come down. The stun is gorgeous. The execution is perfect. And now Chovy looking to try and get out of there with that Spirit Rush. And T1, they play it slow. They accept that they're going to take that pick, and they're looking for more now as far as control of this map.
You got to remember that T1 just took a Dragon. They need to get the resets through. Crucially in all of this, while the trap was turned on its head, notice that Chovy has a 2-level lead over Faker. He has been over-grouping, and he has been denied a lot of farm. Even that top wave just now, he conceded over to Zeus to make sure that he was getting the resources. And while there are advantages across the board, Chovy becomes the sole win condition for Gen G. If he's able to find those picks, if he can find an opportunity, then there is an avenue back into this game for Gen G.
And while the Baron damage for T1 is pretty solid, right? You have Vi passive, you have Gumayusi who will shred through it fairly quickly. It's so hard to deny Nocturne access to the pit. True. And we saw T1 themselves show that a single Baron steal can be enough to turn a game on its head. And T1, I imagine, is going to be looking, unless they get a really good Baron opportunity, just start stacking these Drakes, because the Baron actually does a ton of damage, even as we get this late into the game. You gotta have to really respect it. Not really the same for the Dragons, but that, even if you end up going for that, as dangerous as a 4 Drake Hextech Soul is, that's 8.5 minutes from now. And at that point, the gold lead isn't gonna be quite as useful. I think T1, they're gonna look for a pick onto someone, turn that into Baron, and truly break the back of Gen G.
Well, Chovy hasn't been back to base in what feels like a decent amount of time, because he's been sitting on exactly these items for the last, what feels like 7 minutes or something like that. But now Gen G are poised. They're in their jungle, understanding that T1 do want to look for this Baron. They do have control vision of the area. They can get over these walls pretty comfortably. As Oner going to dive into the back of the pit, take down that ward, and now T1 are going to start this one up. Paranoia can get Canyon into that pit anytime he wants, but they do need to get vision of it. They find that vision right now, and T1 immediately back away. The amount of respect being shown this game is incredibly high. T1 not wanting to give an inch.
They can just keep doing this, though. Keep forcing cooldowns. Eventually, Gen.G is going to run out of wards, run out of scryers, and they are going to have to face check.
They don't have the blue trinket on Peyz. I know it looks like that on the bottom of your screen, but it is unavailable. It's the only one on their side.
There you go. Ezreal, just to check.
Yep, that T1 are playing with the pressure that they have well, forcing Gen.G into this uncomfortable position. Resets have come through from T1. Vision replenished now for Keria as he makes his way back out onto the map. Faker gonna go and catch the bot wave as Chovy gets ever closer to level 16.
Only picks up a needlessly large rod, so maybe it hadn't been as long as I thought. The intensity of the game might be attributing to that one.
It's a surprisingly tense game, considering the gold deficits that Gen.G find themselves in. And I really do think it's because you just keep looking at Chovy. You see how strong he is on this Ahri, and you have to respect it. T1, though, doing what they've done all game. They move into Gen.G's jungle and say, by the way, this belongs to us. Please vacate the premises as we take all of your jungle camps.
Yeah, and this is the thing. This is the slowly but surely drawing out the advantage, right? This is the safe way to win the game. T1 have been known to take some liberties as far as advantages are concerned.
Oh, yeah.
And this time around, not necessarily doing so as much. But what it's doing is giving Peyz time to get farm, giving Chovy time to get more levels and farm himself. And so maybe when Peyz has 3 items, Chovy has 3 items, that could be a time where a fight can be better here for Gen.G. But I still think that T1 have a lot of great tools in these team fights later on. Zeus on his Gragas has made magic happen. T1 and on his Akali needs no introduction. And Gumayusi on this champion that, if given the space, can really lose control. I mean, I think that this is a recipe for success for T1 unless Gen.G does something miraculous.
I love that you said T1 on Akali as opposed to Faker on Akali, which actually
it's synonymous, right?
It's synonymous. It's perfect. And the level 60 now hit, as you pointed out, Vadi Chova's getting those 3 items hit. And it's really weird because I do feel like T1 was absolutely demolishing this game. I still think they are highly favored in this game. They're going to get the soul point, and I don't think Gen.G really has anything that they can do about that. But there's got to be a point where the inhibs have to start falling, or the Baron has to be threatened as the check comes through. Obviously quite early, not really going to spot anything.
Those 2 dragons were so valuable because it kind of just bought them time. They can choose to concede this objective as well. The top wave being pushed in, Gen.G playing the side lanes methodically. They're not over-forcing their hands. And what felt like a beatdown earlier, it felt like that we were going round for round in a boxing match, and T1 was just generating point after point after point. But now we're kind of in this back and forth. A lot of dodging's been happening, and Gen.G have been able to stall out enough where it feels like their stamina has been regained, and a single good punch from them could be enough to swing the whole game.
Especially now, that 3rd item does come through here for Peyz. He's feeling a whole lot better in this game right now. And on his Ezreal, we know that Ezreal can do some pretty ridiculous things as the game goes on, thanks to Elk for letting us know. Peyz is no stranger to it. This was, in fact, one of his first mains that we ever saw. Him in Challenger is something that Chronicle will not shut up about.
Well, I was going to talk about it, actually, but thank you for being
That's
out
good.
on it.
That helps. That goes with the plan.
Real smart.
Well, no, I don't
like
have to.
I feel like you've cast with him before.
Yeah, no, I've seen him around.
Every now and then.
He looks like an imposter. He looks like Chronicler from back in the LCK, but he's got this moustache, so it can't be him.
As T1 desperately tries to catch someone of Gen.G off guard. For T1, though, the guarantee of the next Drake setup is amazing because Gen.G has only 2 Drakes, so they can very happily give that up. Whereas Gen.G 100% is going to have to play towards that soul. I know that in theory you can do the, okay, you get soul, we get Baron, but it's Hextech soul. We saw in the previous game how hard the game becomes to play out, and Guma's volleys alone are going to be an absolute nuisance if you're trying to play, particularly if you're trying to play very far forward, very aggressively. The slow makes it so hard. Gen.G still setting up these traps, but it's so easy for T1 to check.
Yeah, Hawkshot is a pretty powerful ability. True Shot Barrage not going to find any joy here as Faker on a flank angle taking control of the mid lane, and you've got the split push and Gragas, that nimble large man moving in the bottom lane, trying to put pressure on Gen.G.
I don't know if you guys ever get this, but I have this weird feeling that Chovy's going to do something really crazy.
Like in your waters?
Oner.
Oh yeah, Oner was thinking about it. The arrow is going to go wide, but still Spirit Rush has to be invested as Peyz gets caught by Handshake, and now over the wall they go, but Oner might be going a little bit too far. You've got Zeus coming in though, just trying to be the hero, and speaking of heroes, Faker finds Peyz, but not enough damage. Lehends, the first to go down in the exchange, and now Genji are scattered. Peyz is dead, and Zeus says, you cannot take this belly. It's going to be Canyon that goes down next, and T1 will take down this inhibitor turret. It took a little while, but I think they're just going to move through and win game 3.
And all that tension deflates as the turnaround is found. T1 not going to let Genji claw their way back in this game. Canyon tries to flash just to clear the wave.
Yeah, Kiin desperately trying to hold him, but he cannot, and now it's Chovy left on his lonesome. He's going to need to be that hero as these minions are going to now join these Nexus turrets. Lehends just trying to buy some time, and he knows that this game is over. Chovy just trying to get back to his fountain, goes golden alongside Faker, as the Nexus is not going to go down. The perfect execution of T1 in this game, exemplified by their mid laner on the fountain of Genji, and they'll move to match point.
I just love that Zeus ended the fight with a beautiful bomber.
Oh,
the Gragas ultimate to set up on the Kiin. Just a fantastic team fight. But I mean, gentlemen, that game was tense, but we got to go to a break, so make sure you don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a bit.